tranquilo y relajado.
Ale,
Claro.
¿qué onda? Oye, ayer me fui de fiesta y conocí una chava guapísima. Creo que esta vez sí estoy enamorado.
¿Otra vez?
No, pero esta vez es en serio.
Güey, necesito que vengas. Es urgente. ¡Oh! ¡No! Chichis. No sé qué es el pelo. ¡No tengo chichis! ¡No, sí tengo chichis!
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and more terrible news for Bud Light. We talked about yesterday how Charles Barkley went on a alcohol-fueled rant about anybody who was in particular boycotting Bud Light, calling them rednecks and or a-holes for simply standing up to the means. And then the media today finally admitting some level of defeat and giving credit to the boycott, giving credit to the people that spread this and actually brought down the king, Budweiser, from the #1 spot. Yet they're still coping, pretending that it was only just an acceleration of what was already going to happen anyway. So it's probably the best you're going to get from the mainstream media, but it's still an admission nonetheless, on top of new sales data that is also very concerning for Bud Light. By the way, this video is sponsored by Goldco. Up until now, the digital dollar, or CBDC, has been nothing but a headline. But right now, things are developing at a rapid pace. It started with a sweeping executive order from the Biden administration, and now central banks are even hiring for their development. Here's the thing. A digital dollar can be used to track your purchases, control what you buy, and even seize or freeze your assets. That's why it's critical that you protect your money with precious metals like gold and silver. I've partnered with the top-rated precious metals company, Goldco, because they're a great company with an amazing reputation. Right now, they're giving you up to $10,000 in free silver while supplies last. Plus, all qualified callers this week will receive a free Ronald Reagan silver coin. So don't wait until all of your money is under Biden's control. Go to quarteringgold.com to learn how you can get started today, or use the link in the description, quarteringgold.com. That's how you qualify, so make sure you use the link. Now, this article from Newsweek over the 4th of July sales. As the boycott against Bud Light continues, new sales data shows the beer brand suffering yet another loss with the decline in sales over the 4th of July holiday weekend. On Monday, the Daily Caller obtained new Nielsen IQ sales data from Bump Williams Consulting, which shows Bud Light sales declining 23.6% for the week ending July 8th when compared to the same period earlier this year. Over a 4-week period ending July 8th, the data showed the decline of Bud Light sales by 27.1% compared to the same period in 2022, the data showed. The new data showing a decline in sales during the holiday weekend for Bud Light comes as conservatives continued to boycott the beer brand for mocking women by hiring a man in woman-faced, quite honestly. And the whole thing is absolutely interesting to me. The row over these brand ambassadors is symbolic of a wider debate about the inclusion of trans individuals in female issues and spaces. Well, it's pretty clear for most people. It's pretty clear for most regular folks out there that, biological men don't belong in biological women's spaces. This is just non-controversial. This is what just about everyone would agree with. Of course, last week, a former Anheuser-Busch executive told Newsweek that he wasn't surprised by the decline in sales. Quote, Bud Light now just becomes the whole topic of the party, and it just becomes a political statement if you have a Bud Light and that a lot of people just don't want to engage with when you're just trying to have a nice time out. Anson Frerichs, former president of operations for Anheuser-Busch, said. Frerichs said that Bud Light could continue to see sales decline over the next few months. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be a long way to get back to the market share they lost. A lot of headwind for them. He said, I project sales are not going to improve and potentially could still get worse. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for Anheuser-Busch told Newsweek last Thursday that year-to-date, Bud Light still remains the number one brand in the industry at dollars and volumes at 8.7%. per share. Well, if you look at, the collapse in sales, it's certainly not going to continue. You see Bud Light sales dropped a staggering 23.6% over that other weekend. But what's the real burn here is that other brands are booming right now. While Bud Light continues to struggle, other brands are soaring. The Anheuser-Busch's brand loss are other brands' gains. Coors was up an astronomical 30.2%. And Miller Lite up 25.3% for the same window. It's like not even, they're up by even more than what Bud Light's down. Modelo, also the top selling beer since May, was up 20.7%. Businesses booming for brands that didn't go woke. Funny how that works. Look, Miller Lite and Coors are still woke. Make no mistake about it, okay? Let's not mince the facts here. Let's not forget that these companies certainly do their widespread pride celebrations in June and their rainbow cans and all this kind of stuff, which I think in general people are totally fine with and have been accepting of, because, quite honestly, that's what's happening, and it was just the Dylan was a bridge too far. Can they ever recover? I don't know. It's a long party. All people want to do is just toss back some cold beers instead of drinking Bud Light. It appears people have opted for Miller, Coors, and Modelo. Play stupid games, you'll eventually win stupid prizes. Bud Light played a wildly stupid game by teaming up with Dylan and is still paying the consequences 3.5 months later. What's interesting to me now is the narrative in the media is starting to change. It started with this article from Newsweek. Bud Light steps back out of the shadows after the boycott onslaught. After spending months in social media wilderness, following backlash over its partnership with Dylan, Bud Light has emerged back into the spotlight and ramped up online posting. The beer brand has largely remained silent on its social media profiles after it faced calls for a boycott for sending the commemorative can. In the 3 months since the controversy began, the beer has seen consistent declines in sales compared to the same time in 2022, with much of its customer base seeming flocking to rival brands. Other Anheuser-Busch labels such as Budweiser and Busch Light have also been impacted by the backlash, industry statistics show. What appears to be attempting to draw back its audience with relatable posts and a return to the Bud Light night, the beer brand's recent posts continue to face overwhelming vitriol online, as reflected in the ratio of likes to replies. Bud Light's July 4th tweet received more than 4,300 replies to fewer than 600 likes. Many users commenting on the controversy and making references. In the most recent post describing a creative beer as the summer Sundays made easy, has accrued 2,500 replies and just 700 likes. Users responding by editing the image continued to include trash, an apparent reference to their feelings of the beer. Even the Travis Kelce ad completely failed. And, if we go back to May 4th, in an investor call, Anheuser-Busch's global CEO said that declining Bud Light sales represented about 1% of Anheuser-Busch's total global volume at the time. He also said it had significantly increased its investment in Bud Light in the U.S. markets and pledged to triple its ad spend over the summer. Well, what's interesting about that is that, that's only going to add to their losses, right? You're spending more and making less. So when when those kind of quarterly reports come out, it's going to be interesting to see how big the impact has been. When you talk about Bud Light only representing 1% of the total pie, that could be true. It's a very diverse group of products that Anheuser-Busch has in Bev. However, we've seen it spill over now. Budweiser is down. Busch Light is down. Stella Artois is down. All these other products. So now it's certainly more than 1%. And here the media is begrudgingly, finally admitting Bud Light lost his crown as America's king of beers, but it was going to happen even without the conservative boycott. Now, I don't think that the boycott was conservative, to be honest with you. I think that, sure, conservatives were part of it, but I think that it was just regular everyday people, too, who are sick of kind of the woke nonsense, the insanity that goes on with, every brand these days when we just want to enjoy ourselves. Modelo is now the king of beers in the United States, or perhaps El Rey de Cervezas is more fitting. King of beers in Spanish, I assume. For the second straight month, Modelo was America's best-selling beer. In June, according to data released last week by consulting film firm Bump Williams, it accounted for nearly 9% of all sales. It recently took the crown from Bud Light, while its market share dropped to 7%. Bud Light, which took the title of America's best-selling beer back in 2001, has seen its sales dip over the past few months following backlash from some conservatives to a marketing promotion with the brand destroyer Dylan Mulvaney. However, several signs show that the switch was inevitable even before the protests. I mean, what an amazing cope this is, right? Like, what an incredible cope. Like, well, yeah, but I mean, it's like, you're fired. You can't fire me. I quit. As Jennifer Maloney of the Wall Street, more like Baloney, Journal noted last month, a closer look at the market data for each beer shows that Modelo has been coming for Bud Light's crown for a while. Modelo Michelob Ultra, another Anheuser-Busch brand, were on track to eventually overtake Bud Light, but before the Bud Light boycott began, a reshuffling of U.S. beer rankings appeared to at least be a year away. I'm guessing that it would be more, and also what this take does is completely ignores the likelihood that Bud Light could have ever, pulled ahead, right? Like, this is saying if Bud Light did nothing to change their sales trajectory, they would have passed them in a year. But what if they did? They don't know. They don't know what Bud Light could have done or would have done in the lieu of this winter's marketing campaign. Or summer, I'm sorry, or the football season, right? Quote, everyone kind of figured Bud Light was getting hit by that boycott, so it fell out of number one, later adding, the Hispanic drinking age population in the United States has been growing much faster than the non-Hispanic one, and there has been a trend towards the premiumization of beer, Modelo, the corporate premium cousin to Corona. Well, yeah, everyone likes that gold foil on it. It looks kind of fancy, but Modelo's been around forever. I think it was still around when I was like 16 washing dishes and stocking beer coolers. I think I remember seeing those cans. Even if Bud Light eventually recovers from some of its market share, long-term trends are already eating into its dominance, means it will be hard for the brand to reclaim the crown from Modelo. Even without the boycott, there's going to be a new king of beers. Oh, well, what a fantastic cope. Make sure you check out quarteringgold.com. Link will be in the description below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.